The reason why different arteries and veins have different patterns than the other is because of their jobs. Unlike the other veins and arteries, the pulmonary artery carries oxygenated blood. Other veins and arteries go out of the heart or into, but the pulmonary artery goes through the aorta. The aorta leads to the lungs where the oxygenated blood goes to. The pulmonary arteries are considered to be an exception to this pattern due to its function of carrying deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs for oxygenation, rather than carrying oxygenated blood like other arteries in the body do. The pulmonary veins are also considered as an exception to this pattern due to its function of carrying oxygenated blood back to the heart from the lungs. The complete opposite function that the veins in the body function to do, which is to carry deoxygenated blood.
The blood comes from the right atrium, then goes below to the right ventricle and goes into the pulmonary arteries. After they reach the artery, the blood then goes to the lungs. Then the cycle begins again, going to the heart. Oxygen-poor blood enters the heart through the superior vena cava and the right pulmonary vein, and continues into the right atrium. The right atrium then sends this blood through the tricuspid valve to continue into the right ventricle. The inferior vena cava also carries the oxygenated blood into the right ventricle to be oxygenated. From the right ventricle, the blood makes its way to the pulmonary valve and through the pulmonary trunk. The pulmonary trunk then carries the now oxygenated blood to the right pulmonary artery and the left pulmonary artery to be dispensed into the lungs.
On the left side of the heart, blood travels back to the heart through the pulmonary veins and enters into the left atrium. From the left atrium, blood then passes through the mitral, also known as the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, blood is then passed into the aortic valve. The aortic valve then allows the blood to travel to the aorta. From the aorta, oxygenated blood is then able to exit the heart and continue to flow throughout the body and into the tissues and organs.
If the heart fails, the veins will increase and will cause a significant force to be placed on the vessel walls, which can cause congestion. With the increase of size, the veins will become swollen-like. After the veins double in size, the veins will leak, making the blood leak onto the surrounding organs or tissues. The symptoms that can be caused by this are swelling in the legs or abdomen.
If the left arteries and left side of the heart failed, the right side would ultimately have to pump blood faster. If this were to happen, the whole pulmonary circuit would be disrupted. The right side of the heart would then have to significantly increase its pressure to have the ability to even attempt to move blood through the pulmonary circuit. And then, like their usual cycle, it will lead to the pulmonary artery. But for the left side, the clogging will reach up to the lungs, and the right side would try to avoid the pulling of blood in the lungs but would fail.
A stenotic bicuspid mitral valve would block the blood movement to the left side of the heart, and since the blockage won't let the blood fall through their usual pathway, the blood will make the valve almost swollen-like and make fatal pressure. The valve opening would simply become smaller and narrowed, causing the heart to have to use more pressure to pump harder to let the blood flow through the tiny opening.
The chamber of the heart that would have its workload increased the most by stenotic mitral valve is the left atrium, because due to the smaller and narrowed opening of the mitral valve, the left atrium would have to work even harder to even attempt to push the blood through the narrowed space, which would cause it to ultimately have to pump harder and with more force.
A young and healthy person could have serious heart conditions because of their family's genetics. If the dad or mom's families had a history of heart failure, it's most likely that the offspring would have serious heart conditions. Another reason could be due to undetected high blood pressure or even due to the use of drugs, an unhealthy diet, or little to no exercise.
If the left arteries and left side of the heart failed, the right side would ultimately have to pump blood faster. If this were to happen, the whole pulmonary circuit would be disrupted. The right side of the heart would then have to significantly increase its pressure to have the ability to even attempt to move blood through the pulmonary circuit. And then, like their usual cycle, it will lead to the pulmonary artery. But for the left side, the clogging will reach up to the lungs, and the right side would try to avoid the pulling of blood in the lungs but would fail.
Another way is a healthily balanced diet. A healthy, balanced diet can make your heart to be very healthy, also being physically active. Doing sports or yoga can help you have a healthy circulatory system.